Welcome to the second part of our lecture on the male reproductive tract. This presentation, we are going to focus on the reproductive tract of the bull. This lecture, we are going to describe the reproductive system of the bull in terms of its anatomy and physiology. So we are done with our discussion of the testes. We started with the spermatic cord, where sperm are produced, then the sperm will go to the retetestes, to the vasa efferentia, to the head of the epididymis, the body and the tail of the epididymis where the sperm are stored. So after that, the sperm will go up along the vas deferens and now along the spermatic cord as shown in the top diagram. The structures that are contained within the spermatic cord includes the vascular structures, the blood vessels, of course, the arteries and the veins. We also have the lymphatics and the nerves. So all the blood supply coming from the testes, the nerves, the lymphatics, they all come along through the spermatic cord, as shown in the figure. So this blood supply refers to our pampiniform plexus. So the pampiniform plexus contains the blood vessels and the arteries and the veins. The arteries are in red and the veins are the blue ones. As you can see here, they wrap around each other. So these two structures will do some countercurrent exchange, meaning that the blood coming in will be cool, the testes will be cooler, and the blood coming back out in the vein would be cooler than the blood coming in. These veins again wrap around the arteries and it exchanges heat to cool the blood coming in. So this is also known, known as the countercurrent exchange mechanism. So again, the temperature, the body temperature of the bull is about 39 and that of the testes is lower, so 34 degrees centigrade. So it needs a countercurrent exchange mechanism in order for the blood coming into the testes to be cooled before it reaches the testes. Of course, the other function of the testes is for the production of testosterone. The testosterone is produced in high level in the testes. So this countercurrent exchange mechanism is also important because it will keep the level of the testosterone in the testes to be relatively high compared to that of the rest of the body. So the countercurrent exchange is important because the blood now coming in to the testes has a lower testosterone level compared to that of the testes. Again, because it has passed through the body. So for example, the level of the testosterone in the testes is higher at 70 nanogram per ml as compared to that of the body. The pampiniform plexus will function and it will try to maintain the elevated level of testosterone in the testes. So this is important because a higher level of testosterone will be needed in support for spermatogenesis or the formation of the sperm. The spermatic cord also contains a muscle, and that is the cremaster muscle. This muscle, which it can raise and lower the testes closer to the body wall. However, this muscle is not really involved in temperature regulation. It is involved in the fight or flight response. For example, if the bull gets into a fight with another bull, the cremaster muscle will pull the testes closer to the body wall to protect the testes. So all species have this muscle and they are able to pull the testes closer to the body in emergency situations. So one of the role of the pampiniform plexus is that it influences the arterial pulse of the testes. So this diagram shows the measurement of the arterial pulse of the testes in the spermatic artery and in the testicular artery. So this portion here on the left side is a measurement of the pulse in the spermatic artery, and this portion here is the measurement in the testicular artery. The y-axis is the arterial pressure and mmHg, and the x-axis is the time. So when in the spermatic artery, before it goes to the pampiniform plexus, the testicular pulse is higher at a range of 121 to 81 as compared to the testicular artery, which is only 104 to 94 mmHg. So therefore, the function of the pampiniform plexus that is seen in this figure is that it will reduce the arterial pulse, or it will dampen the arterial pulse or the pulse pressure in the testes. So basically, when we say pulse pressure, that has to do with the widening of the artery as influenced by the ejection of the blood in the aorta. So the pulse pressure here in the testicular artery has been reduced or dampened as influenced by the presence of the pampiniform plexus in the spermatic cord. So this is the actual specimen of the spermatic cord of the bull, and this is on the left-hand side. This is the spermatic cord, and we also have here on the right side, the diagram points to the cremaster muscle. So these are the cremaster muscle of the bull's testes. We also have the vas deferens and the presence of the pampiniform plexus. So this is a diagram of the reproductive tract of the bull, showing the different parts. And in this figure, we're going to focus on a muscle that is found beneath the scrotum or the scrotal skin, and that is the tunica dartus. The tunica dartus is the muscle that is involved in temperature regulation. It is extremely sensitive to testosterone. It is a smooth muscle, which means that it can contract for a long period of time. So as shown in the bottom part of the figure, those in red arrows, when the muscle contracts, it will bring the scrotum in, thus bringing the testes closer to the body wall. This is why, this is the way, that in cool temperatures, the testes is held closer to the body wall, making it warmer. In warm temperatures, this muscle will relax and the testes will be much farther down away from the body wall. This is important in bulls. For example, in the tropics, it's hot all the time, so they must have the testes farther down. So the tunica dartus, is again a smooth muscle, and it is also considered to be androgen dependent or dependent on testosterone. At the very bottom of the scrotum, as seen in the figure, is a piece of connective tissue left over when the tissue is developing and pulled down into the scrotum and referred to as the gubernaculum. The gubernaculum attaches from the tunica vaginalis to the cauda epididymis. So we have here, the cauda or the tail of the epididymis, and we have here the tunica vaginalis, just under the tunica dartus. So again, the gubernaculum functions to keep the testes from twisting around. So imagine the testes is hanging down. What happens if it starts twisting around? So the blood supply will be constricted. This is really important. The gubernaculum is important to keep that from happening. So we have here a review of our lesson. How is the testes cooled? So the testes is cooled by the pampiniform plexus, a structure that is found in the spermatic cord. And the testes can also be raised or lowered by the tunica dartus. So it is said that we also have another is the external cremaster muscle, and it functions in the fight or flight response. So the external cremaster muscle is not really involved in cooling, but it functions in emergency cases. We are going to move inside the body of the bull, to what is referred to as the pelvic genitalia. So again, this portion here is known as the pelvic genitalia. So of course, it is found within the body. This is found outside the body. And this is known as pelvic genitalia because it is found within the pelvic cavity. This diagram is the pelvic genitalia of the bull. So on the top portion of the figure, we can see here the purple colored one, the vas deferens. So the vas deferens enters the region at the largest glandular structure, which is the ampulla. The ampulla secretes something in here, but not a lot, and this structure is also not present in all domestic animals. So from the ampulla, the sperm will move into the colliculus seminalis. The colliculus seminalis is the area where the sperm pooling is take place with the secretions from the accessory sex glands. We also have the seminal vesicles that is located on the top portion of the figure, the pinkish structure. So these seminal vesicles is located, we have two, the left and the right seminal vesicles. And another structure here is the urethra, the pelvic urethra. So the urethra is surrounded by the prostate gland. And the prostate gland has two portions. We have the body and the disseminate part of the prostate. So the secretions of the prostate are being dumped directly into the urethra. And when we are going to look into the structures that surrounds the prostate, now it is surrounded by a muscle known as the pelvic urethra muscle. We also have another structure, the Cowper's gland, as shown in this green figure here. And for the prostate, the Cowper's gland rather, it is surrounded by another muscle known as the bulbospongiosus muscle. Bulbospongiosus muscle. So another structure is the bladder, the urinary bladder, and the bladder dumps into the same tube where the semen comes into, and when they come together, that's the urethra. So this is the structure of the urethra. This is the, of course, this is the pelvic urethra because it is located within the pelvic cavity. The top image shows the actual specimen of a bull reproductive tract. We have here, the vas deferens is seen entering the tract, one coming from each testis. We also have another is the ampulla, shown in the figure, and we also have the, of course, the seminal vesicles, one on each side. We also have the body of the prostate, and compared to the others, it is not very distinct. The disseminate portion of the prostate is buried within under the pelvic urethral muscle. We also have the Cowper's gland. The Cowper's gland is located at the back of the bulbospongiosus muscle in this figure, and the bulbospongiosus muscle surrounds the urethra. So this is the diagram for the bulb of the penis. This portion here is the location of the pelvic urethra, and the pelvic urethra is of course a tube. It is surrounded by the muscle, pelvic urethra muscle. We also have the bulbospongiosus muscle, this part, and it is located around the back of the bulb of the penis. So both the urethral and the bulbospongiosus muscles contract during ejaculation to force the sperm out. Another muscle is the SQ cavernosus muscle, and the blood supply coming to the penis passes through this muscle. And this is the blood supply that leads to erection. So the bull has a relatively long penis. This penis has a big bend in it known as the sigmoid flexor, as shown in the figure. So during erection, this flexor straightens out as it gets more blood flow into the penis, and it elongates and becomes very rigid. For it to straighten, we have here a green muscle that is called as the retractor penis muscle. It must relax in order for that to happen. After ejaculation, the retractor penis muscle has to contract to bring the penis back in its usual location. The next slide will show the cross-section of the penis as indicated here at this portion here by the red circle. This is the cross-section of the bull penis. In the diagram, we can see that there are two large veins. So this portion here, there are two large veins in the center of the upper portion, and we have a very hard portion of the penis here, this level, known as the corpus cavernosum. So even in the non-erect state, this rigid portion and the blood supply come into here, and it is now the corpus cavernosum that gets harder and turgid during erection, and this is where the increase in the blood supply is going, and the penis will become erect at that point. We also have at the bottom part is a softer tissue known as the corpus spongiosum, hence the name. This is the spongy part where the urethra passes through. So this is the spongiosum part, and at the center is the urethra. So during ejaculation, the waves of pulses of the muscle contractions pass down and affect the blood supply into the corpus spongiosum. So we get waves of contractions moving down to help force out the semen. There is also this portion here is the retractor penis muscle right alongside the penis. So this is the actual cut portion of the penis. We can see here the corpus cavernosum. We also have the urethra and the corpus spongiosum. This is the diagram of the glans penis of the bull. If we move at the end of the penis, it is covered by a tissue or a sheath known as the prepuce. And this diagram, it is retracted. If we pull that back, now the prepuce, we are going to see the free portion of the penis. This is the part that is no longer connected to the sheath or the prepuce. In development, prior to puberty, the penis is attached to the sheath. At puberty, the penis becomes free to it, and the scar tissue where it is attached previously is called the raphe or the raphe. At the end of the bull penis, we could see the glans penis. It is where all the blood supply terminates from the corpus cavernosum. It engorges with blood, and it also protects the female from being damaged by the act of active mating. So the glans penis is the largest during erection, and we can also see the urethral process in this portion. So here is the actual one, and the prepuce or the sheath is pulled back or retracted with the use of the forceps. We can also see the raphe or the raphe, which is a scar tissue. We also have the glans penis and the urethral process. So this diagram is the arterial blood supply of the male reproductive tract. We'll all start with the dorsal aorta, which is the aorta at the top portion of the diagram. This is the artery that comes back from the heart, and it first break up at the level of the testicular artery. So this portion here, the first one is the testicular artery, and this artery supplies the testes, now the pampiniform plexus, and the epididymis. Another portion here is the another branch of this artery is the umbilical artery, and the umbilical artery supplies the vas deferens and the urinary bladder. We also have the external pudendal artery, the one that is located between the testicular and the umbilical. We have here the external iliac, and it will supply the prepuce and the scrotum. Another portion here going through this part is the internal iliac. The internal iliac breaks into the internal pudendal and the prostatic artery. The internal pudendal supplies the pelvic urethral muscle, cowpers, bulbourethral, and the osteocavernosus muscle, as well as the penis. For the prostatic, it supplies the ampulla, prostate, seminal vesicle, bladder, and the vas deferens. For our review question, so what is a vasectomy and how does this differ from castration? What is the difference between vasectomy and castration? So when we say vasectomy, you cut the vas deferens. So when you cut the vas deferens, you prevent the male from getting a female pregnant, but the male will still produce sperm, at least for a while, and they definitely produce testosterone because it is produced in the testes. For castration, you remove the testes, the entire testes, now, and removal of the testes will, of course, prevent pregnancy. But since the testes is responsible for testosterone production, it will also eliminate testosterone and therefore the male behavior. So since the testis is responsible for the production of sperm, the sperm production will be compromised and also the testosterone. So this castration is of course important, particularly in food-producing animals, particularly in cattle. So because if a male animal is castrated, it's going to put on more fat now relative to muscle. So more fat is important than a muscle, especially for cattle, dairy, and the beef cattle. Because now, more intramuscular fat makes the meat taste better. So if the meat is lean, it is very hard to cook and also it has less flavor. The market actually likes more marbling or more fat in the muscle of the meat. So in contrast, the male with an intact testis grows faster but does not put on much fat in the muscle. This is the reproductive organs of the bull, now showing the different parts now coming from the testis. Here also the spermatic cord and the different structures, the accessory sex glands of the male. The bull penis is of course characterized by the presence of the sigmoid flexor, this structure here, the S-shaped structure, and the penis is maintained inside the body of the bull by this structure, and this prevents the exposure of the penis to prevent injuries. So during copulation, the musculature, which is the retractor penis muscle, relaxes and the penis extends and becomes exposed. In terms of the type of the bull penis, so it is classified as fibroelastic, meaning that there is a small amount of erectile tissue and little enlargement occurs after erection. The penis is quite rigid when not erect and becomes even more rigid during erection.